started. So thank you guys for all coming to today's session all about social media. So this presentation came together. It was actually brought to the SORH Communications Committee a few months ago. They were tasked with developing a session about any kind of communication topic somewhat related to the SORH proficiencies. And overwhelmingly, they wanted a session about social media. If you've been around for a while, last year we did a social media kind of boot camp workshop type thing online. It was a series of 3 sessions about social media. So then they wanted to have a chance to allow for some questions and discussion with SORH and talk about, because as you all know, every SORH looks different on what they're allowed to do with social media, if they're allowed to do it at all. Some have free reign to do whatever they want, others not so much. So today's speakers are coming from 2 different perspectives. We've got Bob Dumig, who's coming from the Oregon State Office, getting that perspective on what they do social media wise. And then we also have Ellie Wilson from the Virginia office, getting her perspective from a state government based SORH and what they can and can't do, and some strategies to what they've had that's been successful. So they're both going to present, and then we want this to be an open discussion. We'll look for virtual questions too. So if you've joined us virtually, we welcome you to put questions in the chat for the group and have a great discussion. So thank you. Here you go, Bob.
All right, thank you very much. And so one interesting part about our office is we are university based, and in our university, we are the rural outreach for the overall institution, even though there are other little bits and pieces. And so we get left alone a little bit, which is really nice. So when the university went and did their whole strategy on communication, rural wasn't really a big part of it. And so we struggle with them paying attention and helping us support some of the rural messaging. So we have learned that it is much easier to ask for forgiveness than permission. So we put their little flame on everything so they can at least not complain about that part. We argued with the fact that we still have our own sort of branding that we do, which they didn't allow any of the other departments, and they said we couldn't do it. We ignored them, and after so many years, we continue to use it. So we, again, they'll come after us someday, I'm sure, but we'll just continue to ignore them on that part. But asking forgiveness is a much easier process. Okay. All the pictures are Oregon, by the way. So don't ask me where, but they're all Oregon. So what is a strategy? So one of the things that we have done a lot of different things over the years at the Office of Rural Health. And I came to using social media kicking and screaming because I use very little of it personally and didn't think we could really make it work for our folks, et cetera. And it's taken us a while to bring it all into one kind of focused way of doing it. So social media can actually be more detrimental if you're not paying attention to it in a strategic way. And part of it is because people respond to you on social media. So if you're not paying attention to it and somebody, oh man, we've had cases where people have gotten up there and talked about how the university killed their daughter. And it was all in response to something we posted and nothing that we did, but because we're with the university, et cetera. So it really, you've got to keep up on it. So we went to build a strategy, and we did so with a little bit of carryover money from our SORH grant, brought somebody in to help us think it through and figure out what it is that we're doing. Because you will find that when you're all sitting in the room and you're all the same staff to talk about it, you're not going to get anywhere unless somebody from the outside can come in and help you think about that. But what is a strategy? It is just a way of thinking. So it shouldn't be that complicated. Nobody should be worried about putting together something that's strategic because it's just a way of thinking. And it really is a way of thinking about things you already do. So social media and communication in general is not creating up new content and doing new things. It really is repackaging what it is you're doing, at least in the initial stages, so that you can get it out there for folks. So what are SORHs doing? We are doing a lot. Just look under Objective 1 for your SORH grant. And that is a really broad base of the things that we do. And so what you want to do is communicate that the way you're communicate the stuff that you're doing in a consistent message. Don't go out and say, oh, I'm not doing X, Y, and Z. I've got to do that so I can put it up on social media or communicate it out in my newsletters, et cetera. Just look at what you're doing and determine what you think you're doing best. What story you want to tell first, and then you can build around it, because you're not going to do everything all at once. That's the other piece to keep in mind as you're building something. If workforce is what you're doing and you're really known for it, you've got some great stories, start there. If quality is something you're doing, start there. But because part of this is to make you and your office look good so that people understand the work that you're doing, and maybe your project officers are looking, and that's always helpful too. So do that first and then build on it. So it really is change the way you think about the work you're doing, because everyone needs to think about how we tell our story. Every SORH has a great story. So what are we going to do to tell it? That's all social media is. And we were really confused on that because the way our staffing was, it's like, who tells that story? Right? I've got the stuff I do. My COB person does her stuff, then workforce over here. There is no sort of strategic way of putting that in together. And until we were able to make some staff changes, a benefit of COVID, we didn't have that centralized focus. So part of it is to look at your office and say, can I restructure just enough to change somebody's position description to focus on storytelling? And sometimes that won't work and you have to rework it. But in our case, we were pretty lucky there. So what we use in our tools, and I just put this up there because I thought it was really cool. So for our social media, we use Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And MailChimp isn't really a social media tool, but we use it a lot for the work that we do for our newsletters, for our announcements. We do 4 quarterly newsletters. We do twice a month targeted to our rural health clinics. Every quarter, we have quality updates that go to our critical access hospitals. And then we have separate lists that go to our workforce, recruiters in all of our facilities and pieces like that. And then we have a larger one that goes out quarterly to about 10,000 people. So that kind of coordinates everything. And it's really important to remember that you don't, again, all your content is there if you put it in the right places. So we'll go back to all of our social media every quarter and pull those great stories that we put up and put them into the newsletter, because you're putting them into a new format and you're retelling a story you wanted to tell that was done on social media, which didn't necessarily go to everybody that's on your larger newsletter list. So that way you get to do a larger coverage and reuse the work that you've already done. So these are just some shots of what we use. And so every one of them is used very differently, right? So Facebook, we can put out a lot of information and events and a lot of just, hey, look at what, look what Bob's doing. Or whatever it may be. Our Instagram account, very different, right? That's got to be very, very photo centered. You can't put a lot of detail up about there. So we really try to use this one when we have teams and folks out traveling, pictures of the clinics they're on, great country, pictures, any of those pieces. Although we are starting to do a little bit better about putting some links in, but it's just not generally why people go to Instagram. What we have started to do as well with our LinkedIn page, and I guess this one's actually Twitter, isn't it? See, I'm so limited on my usage. I can't even tell what they all look like. So the Twitter piece we do, and all of ours are tagged, and I'll show it in a minute. So when we put it out on one format, it goes out on all of them, except potentially the Instagram. Our videos all go up on YouTube. So everything that we do in webinar, any kind of educational session, anything that comes from our conferences, I don't have it up today. I just got this morning. We have 2 videos that we will do at the conference next week. One is our Hero of the Year. So we choose one person every year, and then we do about a 3-minute video, about that individual's life. So we have that just came through today. And then we put together a 4.5-minute recruitment video. So we chose providers from Baker City, Roseburg, and down in the Curry Health Network on the South Coast, trying to cover all 3 sort of regions of our rural state. And it interviews these providers, talks about why they want to be there and those types of things. And so we'll use that with 3RNet and all of the other locations that we do our recruitment, and we'll be targeting every state that gets really cold in winter, sometime around January, and say, hey, this is why you should come to Oregon because it's just nice. Do what? Not that cold though. So all of those things go up on our YouTube page. And so you'll find all of those pieces there. And here is our LinkedIn page. And we've really, again, knowing which one to use for what, this is what we really target our job postings on. So the way our 3R networks, we actually charge. And for that, we do a lot of promotion for their positions that they put out, and this is one of them. And then we target that to people who are looking in rural and all the little ways you can do that on LinkedIn. So, and we've had a lot better return on social media, particularly on our job postings, when we started really focusing on LinkedIn over the other ones. And I would say that for us, we do workforce pretty well. And so that's the story we're going to tell. We do all the provider incentives for the state. So we want to tell that story about why, Tina is now a provider in Roseburg and why she got loan repayment. That's the story we'll tell and begin to tie that back. And one of the other things that we've started to do, I'll get to that in a minute. Don't want to get ahead of myself. So really it is managing the workflow you have and managing your message. And so we do it using a kind of a coordinated program that we can put everything in and schedule it. So we have a 30-day schedule for our social media. And everybody knows when they need to get their information into Sarah. It can be announcements, it can be the story they were responsible for, but it's all done in 30 days out. And that way, if Sarah's not there, it's already scheduled to go out. In our conferences next week, we've had all of our notifications and pieces done up and ready to go. So for 6 weeks prior, it went out on a regular basis and notification. So this tool is really, really helpful. Otherwise, you're trying to sign into all of your different social medias. You're trying to figure out how to put them all up at what time and the rest of it. If anybody has an interest in this after this, please let me know and I can put you in touch with Sarah, who knows all the language. Airtable is a tool I'll show you in a second. This is dang it, I promised myself I'd remember what it was. I just call it Zoot Suite, but that's not what it is. But I'll find out and tell you. Zoho, that's the one. Zoho, thank you. So it's Zoho. You can do all of your social media in one location and scheduling it. ZOHO. And again, there's different packages within this. So if you're looking, you're like, oh my God, it's $300. Not necessarily. It depends on how often you use it and what you want in it. So you can, purchase up or down depending on where you're going to go. But Sarah will tell you that this is just key to her being able to get it all to work. This is what you were referring to. So here you have all your staff out there, right? I'm out doing CA stuff and somebody else is doing RHC stuff. And they're supposed to be the ones turning it into social media, right? They understand the story, not Sarah necessarily, who puts it all up. And so she keeps asking, I need your material. I need your material. And then they just forward her this email that says, oh, here, turn this into a social media post. And poor Sarah's like, I don't know what to take out of here. So, and then the other piece is that folks kind of forget, and then they seem to think it's a lot of work and on and on. So she put together this form and it's a link. So all you have to do is put it on your bar and top, and then you click it. And then so my name, the date I want it posted, some general notes about it. Here's which ones I want it posted on. And then this is whether it's going to go on our calendar and the other pieces. And then I'm the one that puts together a short paragraph. So I'm looking at my email and saying, this is what I want you to highlight. And here's the link. And then Sarah can take that and then put it up on social media. And if I misspell or, double spaces or something like that, she can correct that part, right? And so this has really been a lifesaver in trying to get staff to actually do what we're asking them to do. What did you just call it? Airtable. This is Airtable. And we're actually using Airtable for other program management tool as well. So, yep, absolutely. Everything, I'm assuming this is all, everybody's going to get these, right? Afterwards, yeah. And so I'm happy anybody that wants to, we can set up a time and Sarah can walk everybody through exactly what's going on and that type of stuff on these. So one of the things to remember again is it takes a team. in order to make this work, because your office has the knowledge and they have the understanding of what it is you're trying to promote. They just don't always understand how to do it. And that's where Sarah comes in. So we put together a communications team. Includes myself, our field director, and one person from each of our kind of breakout teams. So we have administrative, field, and workforce. And so there's one person then that and on the communications that's responsible to go back to their team and say, hey, I need content for the next 30 days. We have every Thursday. What do we want to put up there? Or to take amongst their team, they've got this event coming up or this announcement on a grant. Let's get it all put in so it gets to Sarah and goes up. It really breaks it down and makes each one of the teams own the information that they have. And then what we're starting to do now is we're bringing in our AHAC. Even though we're not one office, we have started to share staff. And one of the staff that we're beginning to share is communication so that we are telling the rural story. And we can tell a bigger and better rural story if we're doing it through AHAC and the Office of Rural Health together. So, and it also breaks down some of the other, boundaries that go there. But, sorry. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So one of the things that we did as part of our communication strategy is put together a template for our PowerPoints because we used to have them all over the place. So we have a set number of pictures that we can use, and we have a set font and size and all of that now that everybody uses, so that there's some kind of consistency to what we do. And as we do more things with AHAC, we may in fact alter that just a little bit. And we always put the flame down here so that they can stop yelling at us. So this isn't my favorite photo for this, but I do like this. So one of the things that we did as part of our strategic planning was to figure out how to sell rural Oregon in an interesting way. And it was Michelle Rothman that we worked with. Michelle does a lot for SORH and has done for others. So Michelle's got this way of coming in and talking about marketing. And, you're selling yourself and you're all these things in that way that marketing people do, that when you walk into a nonprofit Office of Rural Health where everybody thinks they're doing God's work and don't sell things, are like, not going to do this. We had quite a clash on getting people to understand what it is that we were marketing. And so it was a push between we're marketing all these great services that we do, and everybody else said, no, we're marketing rural Oregon. And so you'll have that internal debate a little bit, but as part of that, we came up with sort of a new tag because there's a lot of opportunity in rural Oregon. You just have to knock and it's there. And so we are starting a big campaign that's talking about the opportunity knocks in Oregon. And so the video that we have for recruitment has that on there. All of our year-end report does, our brochure that we're building will have on this. We'll do a big announcement at the conference next week that sort of builds on that, encouraging our clinics and our hospitals and our sites to do that as well. Let's stop talking about being older and sicker and blah, blah, blah. Let's talk about the opportunities that we offer for your ability to practice. And particularly now that COVID is hit and there's so many opportunities out there that might not have been there before. And that's just another way of doing the same logo and some of the pieces. And so that's the housing in Oregon. If you want to come. If reselling it, exactly. Beautiful view, breezy. Oh, at least. Yeah. So communication, it's a way of thinking. It takes the team using what you have and what you're doing to tell your story. So not recreating the wheel, not doing more. You might get there. You might do it so well in the end, just like, oh, we just got to keep doing more. We have to do, but you should never do that in the beginning. You have too much to tell already. So just rethink the way you're doing it. Make everybody on the team own it because it's their story you're telling. It's not you as the director, and it's not even you as the communication person. And I'm sure Ashley can say this too. We can give her all kinds of stuff and she's like, I don't do the flex grant. I know, what does this mean? But you know how to take that and move it. So we have to work as a team if we're going to make that happen. And that's all I have. So that's how you can reach me. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Hold on.
Okay. Thank you. So the question is so Doretha's here, and I know she's done an amazing job of doing some newsletters from our office, and we have to work through the communications team in the department, all that. My question is, for some of these rural health clinics and places that we're trying to recruit physicians and providers to, we've been trying to come up with ways of helping them create appealing social media so that when people are going to look at that location, that it's not, you don't see a picture that's been there 30 years. Yeah. So I didn't know if your office had any strategies around that.
Yeah, we do some of that. So if a site is advertising on 3RNet, and so we manage the account for Oregon, we have to approve everything that goes up. We kind of work it so that it has to go through our office first. And we look at it and say, oh yeah, this doesn't work. And so you need to put a different picture up. What do you mean by this? So we do try to work with them on that end of it. If we had... Yeah, the manpower, so that's why we run it through 3RNet. If it comes in that way, our recruiter is able to look at it and make it work. All of the other ones that are out there, if they're not on 3RNet, that's hard for us because we don't have the staff to go out and say, hey, let's look at what you're doing today. So it really means that they have to come to us first. But we are hoping the Opportunity Knocks thing will help them a lot too. And then maybe that'll bring more of them to our door so we can help them out.
So Bob, in the Northwest and other parts of the country, do you think that there's a kind of an anti-rural bias? Because I think in the South, Southeast, South specifically, a lot of the perceptions about rural are, not well informed, racist, backwards. I think there's a lot of negative connotations about rural in general. So when you ask your average person on the street what they think about rural, it's either a Norman Rockwell-ish idyllic kind of thing, or it's the negative. And I'm just wondering whether others in the room kind of agree with that sentiment. And if you do, are there any ways that you found to really kind of work through that?
Yes, very much so. And we have it in Oregon as well. We have a governor's race going on where we have 3 individuals, a Republican, a Democrat, and an independent. And it's constantly reinforced in their statements and about what's wrong with Oregon and the urban-rural divide. COVID was of no help when it comes to marketing, let's be honest. Heard about rural communities and nobody wants a vaccine and how many public health workers were being targeted, et cetera. So there's a lot of it out there, and there's been a lot of reinforced messaging of that over the last couple, 3 years. So it's a challenge. And for what we're trying to do, that's part of the Opportunity Knocks piece, right? We need to change that story and tell it in a different way so that we're not talking about what all those challenges are. And we didn't get there overnight on this divide, and we're not going to get out of it. So we're going to have to take it with every success story that we can. And that's why it's important to market the success stories. That's why to take a younger person who's just graduated from medical school or MP school or whatever, or maybe paramedicine or whatever it might be, and why they moved to this rural community. And it's like, look, I'm raising my kids there. I'm doing X, Y, and Z there. And that's going to be harder. I mean, in rural Oregon, and I don't know about where you all are from, but we are going through a huge teaching shortage. And we've been there a lot longer than the urban areas have been, but that's going to be another bigger challenge, right? We have to try to figure out how to change the messaging on rural so our young teachers will go out there, because I'm not going to keep my young providers out there who have middle-aged school kids or elementary school kids who don't think the schools are very good. So it's just kind of this rolling thing, and you've got to be really careful not to get too depressed about that, because that'll make you just want to stop and say, well, there's nothing we can do about this. But we can begin to tell the story differently. And I think that's where it's really, really important. Yeah. Hold on. Don't talk yet because I can't hear you.
But when you ask this question, I think you're asking the right person. So if part of you becomes Idaho, are you going to Idaho? Or do you get to stay in Oregon? Maybe you can explain what you understand what divide is.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So for those that don't know, and I'm staying in Oregon, by the way, there's always been for quite some time, a movement in Oregon to split the eastern and southern part to become part of Greater Idaho, because It's in our state, it's not just rural urban, it's east west. So the Cascades sort of divide the high desert areas and really rural and frontier states from the western part of the state, which is really what most people stereotype about Oregon, which is really green and wet but it's also coastal and the coastal range and those things, but it's where the only two cities are too. So it's that piece of it. So we continue to battle that out. And of course, the last couple election cycles haven't been very helpful. We have a new congressional seat that covers sort of part of the western and eastern. So we'll see how that turns out as well. But no, I'm staying on the coast. All right. Any other questions before I turn it over to Ellie? All right. So, oh, it says chat. Does anybody? Oh, do you? They're texting. Okay. Oh, okay. Perfect. Yeah. Thank you for checking that though. Okay. All yours.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Ellie. I'm the outreach coordinator for the Virginia Office of Rural Health. So I'm going to talk about our experience on social media, which is specific to Facebook. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Virginia and our office. We are housed within the Virginia Department of Health, making us a government agency. And I'm sure, as many of you know, the government, and talking about health, there can be some hesitancy when it comes to the government telling you what to do about your health. And so starting a Facebook page can be a little scary. If you go to the Virginia Department of Health Facebook page, there's a lot of arguments in the comments and things like that. So that's not what we wanted when we joined social media. But we know how important it is to engage with people and form those relationships with the communities we serve. So we wanted to have a way to get that community engagement and kind of break down some of those government walls that seem to be put up. And so when I joined the team 2.5 years ago, our team had already started building these relationships and really working hard at that. They planned a series of visits throughout the state to talk to folks. They talked to community leaders about strengths and weaknesses when it came to health and wellness in their communities. And they took those conversations and informed our Virginia Rural Health Plan. So when I came on board, it was super obvious that we wanted to continue this idea of community engagement. And so when I was tasked with bringing our Virginia SORH to social media, we really wanted to focus on that social aspect of social media. So the first thing we've done is join Facebook. That's kind of where we are right now. And we had to kind of figure out how to exist online as a government group. And Facebook seemed like the way to do it. As Bob said, we've kind of gone with the ask for forgiveness approach when it comes to setting up the page and going forward, but we haven't had any issues. So what I've kind of landed on is a balance between being informative and inviting, and Facebook is a really good platform for that. Because it is obviously a tool where you can share a lot of information, but it's also an opportunity to be inviting and, show less government and be a little bit more fun with things. So with that being said, some of the things that I share on our Facebook page are we provide updates from community partners. I like to highlight what others are doing, which is usually the most fun, our best posts, honestly. Whether it's from our local health districts, our grantees, or organizations like SORH. We like to share, of course, our own projects, things our office is working on, Virginia workforce incentive programs, and we feature a photo contest, which I will talk about a little bit later. So when I was thinking about how we use Facebook, and again, it's the tool we use to increase engagement and reach folks that we might not reach using traditional methods like our website. And 3 things kind of came to mind, and they are consistency, clarity, and connection. And these are the things that I think have given us success in that area. The first one, consistency, is pretty straightforward. I post every single day during the work week, so 5 days out of the week. And that's not how it was at first. When we first started the page, I really only posted if something came across my email and it seemed like it should go on Facebook. Now I'm more intentional about finding things to post and creating content that will make sense on our page. Bob shared a tool if you have multiple channels of social media. I, again, am only on Facebook, so I use the Meta Business Suite, which is built into Facebook, which allows you to plan ahead. I have not gotten 6 weeks out yet, but every week I'll go through here and schedule our posts out, which is really helpful. And it's got other tools on here. You can look at insights and see how your posts are performing. So that's consistency. And I think it has made a difference. We start to see the same people on our page every day. And you just, when you're on and posting more, people are just more likely to follow you. They know you're active and you're not just kind of a dead page. The next one is clarity. And what I mean by that is clear branding across all means of communication. For us, obviously it might look different for everyone. For us, that's our website, our newsletter or email listserv, and of course the Facebook page. I try to keep things consistent, which just helps people recognize our content, whether it's being put out on Facebook or if it's on our website. And I wanted to give an example. I think our policy brief is a good way to illustrate this. We publish policy briefs every month. I work with our rural health policy analyst, Seti, and she writes the brief. I'll then format it. This is the design we're working with right now. And then I'll figure out where it needs to go. So we've got a screenshot from our website. This is the email that went out to everyone on our listserv, and then our Facebook post. And again, with the branding, I try and keep the same font, colors. And then for policy briefs each month, I do an icon like that, just again, for people to recognize what we're sharing and hopefully think of us when they see it. I think that's all I wanted to say there. The last thing is connection, which I think is the most important part of our community engagement and also the easiest. It's the fun part. And there are obviously millions of ways to connect with people through Facebook, but the probably easiest one is tagging organizations in your posts. And that just means that when you're referencing an organization and you mention their name, anyone who sees it can just click on their name and they're redirected to their post. And this is good, obviously, for multiple reasons. One, if someone's interested in the content, they can click the name and they're directed right to that page. They can go to the website. They've got all the information they need. But two, these organizations are super proud of the work they do. So for them to be recognized by their state office is exciting and they want to share it. And so when they do, our name is now in front of all of their followers. So we reach so many more people this way. I wanted to include an example. This is probably our most shared post. I was congratulating one of our rural hospitals for being named a top critical access hospital this year. And as you can see, 52 people shared it, which is a big deal for us. And down here, you can see that it reached almost 7,000 people, and that's 7,000 people who probably wouldn't have seen our page otherwise. And maybe this is their first time hearing about our Virginia State office. And so that's a big win. Another way, like I mentioned earlier, is our photo contest. And this is something we've had a lot of fun with. Last year was the first time we did it, and we had a really good response. Facebook's been a great tool for sharing the photo contest. So here's an example of one of the posts I've made. We're currently running the contest. So if you take any pictures while you're here, feel free to enter. But this has been a cool way for us to, again, bring people to the page who might not even be coming for rural health information, but they just are into pictures or photography. And now they're connected to us and maybe they'll stick around. Last year, winners of the contest, we used their photos in our printed SORH calendar. Unfortunately, this year it's going to be digital, but again, people who were picking up the calendar just to see their pictures are now connected with all the resources that we included in the calendar. So that's pretty cool. And beyond that, I've used this content as a way to talk about things other than rural health and create more engagement in pretty much everything we're putting out. This is our newsletter. Every other week, I'll choose a picture that was submitted, put it as our community photo feature. Each one comes with a description and a location so we can celebrate different parts of the state, which has been really fun. And of course, on Facebook, I share these photos as often as I can. Virginia is a state that experiences all 4 seasons. So every time a season changes, I choose a photo that's representative. I put it up there and tag the person who made it if I can find them. If not, their name's up there. But again, it's a fun way for people to come to our page and see something other than health. It makes us look a lot less governmental. But again, it brings them here and hopefully they'll look at our other information as well. Yes. Yeah, it's been really fun. Yeah, I know. Hope the winners aren't upset that the losers are also included, but it's been really fun. And again, I have content every single week just because of this contest. And some of them will be in the calendar, some won't, but it's been super successful. And we've had people, you don't have to be in rural Virginia to enter the contest, you just have to have a photo. So it's been a very, like you said, inclusive way to get people involved and excited about what we're doing. This is another photo from the contest, but I wanted to end by just encouraging everyone to start small. Like I said, our page started out, I didn't really know what I was doing, but it's kind of taken on a life of its own and become something bigger than what we might have thought, or more integral part of the work we do every day. And I'd like to emphasize just how important connecting with people in a means that isn't very traditional for us, especially being governmental, and making people see us hopefully in a more friendly and supportive light. And that's been really fun to see. But I've included my contact information. So if anyone has any advice on how to grow our page or questions, comments that we don't talk about here, I would love to hear from you. Yes.
You mentioned you chose Facebook instead of Instagram or Twitter. Was there a reason why you just went on one?
For us, like I said, kind of the balance of informational and inviting. I think we can get the most information out on Facebook compared to some of the other social media platforms. I guess Instagram might be beyond what we're allowed to do. We're still kind of testing the waters with what platforms we're allowed on. But with our photo contest, Instagram could be fun. So that might be something we look into. Anyone else?
So I know you have a team of several people. So when it comes to the content, how do you guys work together to get the content out there?
Right now, I have an email label for every type of content, if it's newsletter or if it's Facebook or email blast. And so I'll just label it. And as I'm putting things out, I go to those labels. So everyone's just sends me things that are relevant for whichever platform. Oh no, it's just my inbox and that's how I organize myself. Yeah. Yeah, no, the Airtable was very, sounds like a great idea. Yeah.
Anybody in here that does social media, how do you organize it or work as a team, or do you? Does anyone have any?
This is like really specific, but what we were talking about was trying to get staff compliance with participating and developing the content. So one thing that we've found to be successful is we have staff going all over for meetings all the time and they have to get reimbursed for them. And we built it into the process that if you want to get reimbursed, you better supply a picture and some text with that picture.
Sounds effective. Yeah.
I'm not a SOR, but I'll speak from no SOR that whenever we're planning our social media, we have every month, we have a brainstorming session with all of our staff to plan for the next month's content for more specifically for the newsletter, but we also, if it's something that can go on social media, we discuss it then. And we have a little template we use. Specifically, if a resource is going out that we fill out, like who is the audience for this, what frequency are we going to put this out? Where does it need to go out? If it's something that's just to our members, we have certain channels we do for that. If it's for the whole world, we go about it a different way. So we chat about it as a team. We use, it's not Airtable, but it's similar. And we have a couple different things we use that I'm happy to share too. If you're needing some more ideas, but that's kind of how we organize some stuff.
Yes.
But how do you market your Facebook? How do people know that you have a Facebook account?
Yeah, that's a good question. I put our Facebook at the bottom of our newsletter each month or every other week, and at the bottom of anything I send out. But I think tagging organizations and having them share your page is honestly the best way for us, at least. Like I said, with that one post, we're being seen by way more people than our page is going to reach at this point. So I'd say just tagging organizations that our local health districts seem to get really excited when we share their work. And so then they share the post and we're seen by more people who might not even know that we exist. So
we also have all of our signature tags for everybody in the office has all of our social media icons on it so that people can do that. And it's the same with the newsletter. So every quarter it goes out to 10,000 people, and at the bottom, it's got all that.
oh yeah, that's smart too. All right.
Any other comments or questions? Thoughts? Anything online? You're done 1 minute early.
Nice. Thank you.
Yes.